During the time of Chairman Mao, the communists defeated Chinese nationalists, who then fled to the island of Taiwan and took over. Taiwan has since become a stable democracy, but China views it as a renegade province and wants it back.
The Tsar was conscious of the need to integrate his empire. Photography could play a crucial part in creating a new imperial identity, and in Gorsky, the Tsar thought he had found his man.
Rebecca Lawrence and David Soules are about to get married. They're part and parcel of an industry with a $70 billion turnover. I Do is dedicated to see that a slice of that money goes to good causes.
You'd like to be able to say that you held the world record at some point, but I'd like to say I'd had a long, career, and it went well, and I won lots of medals, and maybe, get the goat tattooed on my arm somewhere and say greatest of all times.
The Cape Town Men on the Side of the Road project has now gone national. There are now over 1,000 men who no longer have to wait for a passing car to stop and offer them a job.
Now, a BBC News special.
Hello and good afternoon from New Orleans, one of the world's most famous and vibrant cities, now a scene of devastation and human tragedy. Just a week ago, Hurricane Katrina, among the most powerful storms to strike the United States, swept into America's deep south, destroying communities along the Gulf Coast. It tore straight through this city, breaking down its fragile defenses, flooding its freeways and streets. Let me give you an idea.
The winds reached 145 miles an hour. Highly destructive, but not quite as bad as many had feared. And for a brief while, New Orleans had apparently escaped the worst.
Oh, God.
But then a far deadlier threat was unleashed. Flooding.
Shorty, the drugstore, it ain't there no more.
The hurricane had raised the sea level and whipped up huge waves. And soon it was water, not wind, that proved overwhelming.
Look at the house! The house is floating away! The house is floating away!
The nightmare scenario for New Orleans was unfolding. The giant walls, or levees, protecting the city were breached. New Orleans was lost. What's astonishing about the tragedy of New Orleans is that almost every aspect of it was widely predicted. For a city on the coast, lying between the Mississippi River and the huge Lake Pontchartrain, flooding's always been a threat. And because New Orleans is below sea level, it's guarded by a network of barriers, the levees. But they're expensive to maintain, and experts have long warned that a really big storm would defeat them. In the event, that's what happened. The levees were designed to resist a Category 3 hurricane. Katrina was simply stronger. There were plans to cope with a flood, but obviously they failed. The breach looks so harmless, but look at what it led to. A massive deluge submerging an entire city and producing a vision of apocalypse.
Out of the water, and as soon as they come up out of the water, they're igniting.
From below the water, a burst gas pipe on fire. The basic elements of society were destroyed. Everything was ruined. Even the sewers were overrun. and were emptying into the flood. For some, rescue came quickly.
She's comfortable and the rescue swimmer has given the thumbs up for the hoist rescue.
But the reality, for most people, was very different and far worse.
My wife.
And where is she now?
Can't find her body. She gone.
Everywhere, lives were threatened. The death toll was thought to be in the thousands, but no one really knew. And the survivors, most had to cope as best they could and wait for the president's promises of help.
There is frustration, but I want people to know there's a lot of help coming.
But across the wrecked landscape of the Gulf Coast, with bridges down and whole tracts of land in ruins, help was very slow coming. Looting became widespread.
Hey, I get my drop it. Hey, stop it. Drop it.
Chaos and violence were descending.
They raping babies, raping women, killing people. We don't have no food, no water. They got old people stuck in their houses that don't have legs, that can't walk. We need some help.
Bodies were becoming a common sight, even around the official shelters.
People are dying. They're dying. Babies is dying. Old lady, they got an old lady over there right now, dead in the chair. People are dying. We starving out here.
You got a 3-week-old infant out here. How is a 3-week-old infant gonna be able to survive out here with no milk, no water?
Huge crowds waited in the heat to be evacuated, but there were never enough buses. One helicopter brought supplies, but the soldiers simply chucked them out. The old and the most needy didn't stand a chance.
They throwing water out here like we dogs. How the hell me and my children, our older people out here trying to get water? We can't get it because other people trying to get it, and they're gonna drive up. They've been doing this shit all day. That shit not right.
By the time President Bush flew to the region, there was real anger. Only later that day did the first aid convoys arrive. The most powerful nation on earth had taken most of a week to help its own people. David Shukman, BBC News.
Today, most of those who were still